Mr. O'Mara here, and I want to talk to you about planning your essay. There are a number of important things that go into writing a good high quality high school essay. It's good to have an expansive vocabulary, it's good to be able to write fluently and quickly. But you can have all of those things and still produce a pretty ordinary essay, perhaps a C essay if you're lucky, a B essay. Structure is really important, and at the heart of structure is planning. So I'm going to be talking to you today about how you plan your essay. So the first thing you do is you need to start with the question. You need to have the question and you need to be super clear about exactly what it says. So I have written down my question, which might be backwards for you guys, but I'll be putting it on the screen. And this is a question from last year's VCE exam about the text of Christmas Carol, which is the classic Dickens book. Scrooge must experience both love and grief before he can change his ways. So I'm looking at that and I need to not just have the gist of it, I need to fully understand what it's saying. Must, for instance, is a key word. He must have them. Not he does have them, but must means that without these things it could not happen. And also it says love and grief. So it's not he could have changed through just love, he could have changed through grief, but he must have both of those things to change. So the first thing I need to do is fully come to terms with the question. Look at it, don't just have a general impression of it, look at it, and now you've got a decision to make. You have 5 possible answers here, and I'm going to go through what they are. And some people say, oh no, mine doesn't fit into one of the 5. Well, I've got news for you. Any clear answer fits into one of these 5. So, number 1, I completely agree with this prompt. I agree that Scrooge must have love and grief. Just check my question, love and grief. Possibility number 2, I mostly agree. I think he did, or he probably needed those things. So I mostly agree. Number 3 is, yeah, you know what, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I'm going to come back to that one. That's called the Babs response. Number 4 is I mostly disagree. I don't think that he must have those things. I might say that he did, but I might say, he didn't have to have them. He could, maybe he came to this through fear. Maybe he came to this through self-interest. So, I'm mostly disagreeing. So that's option 4. And option 5 is I completely disagree. So what I do is I get to terms with the question and I look at my brain and my gut and I say, what am I going to respond? Which of these 4? I can do 1 and 2, I completely agree, or I mostly agree. I don't do 3. That's the Babs response. A bit of this, a bit of that. No, boring. The examiner, the reader won't really know what you're on about. Don't sit on the fence, go one way or the other. Don't do the Babs response, I implore you. So, 1 or 2. 1, I completely agree. 2, I mostly agree. 4, I mostly disagree. And 5, I completely disagree. So then we know what type of essay we're writing. If I'm writing a number 1 essay, that is a AAA essay. So all 3 topic sentences agree with the prompt. I'm looking at 3 ways of showing that this is true. Not 3 bits of the story, but 3 topic sentences. So I'm going to dwell on this a little bit. I'm looking back at my prompt. So I say, first of all, Scrooge must have had these experiences. So the first thing I'm going to argue is that these experiences were compulsory. That he couldn't have had different experiences that it must have been these very experiences. So that is my first point. Doesn't have to be, but this is for the example. The second point is that he experienced real love and that caused him to change. And my third point is he experienced real grief and that caused him to change. I'm not retelling parts of the story, I'm just getting 3 concepts and they're all in support of the prompt. However, so that's a AAA response. Number 2, mostly agree. That is an ADA response. I agree in my first paragraph, I disagree in my second paragraph, or say why it isn't quite true, and in my third paragraph I agree again. So because I mostly agree, I'm spending 2/3 of my time agreeing, but that middle one is showing the complexity of the situation, so that's an ADA response. Now, as most of you have guessed, by the time we get down to number 4, we are in fact looking at a DAD response. I disagree with the prompt, I then come back and say how I acknowledge some bits of the prompt are valid, and then I come back and I disagree again. Again, a good place to show some nuanced thinking. And finally, I have a triple D response, which is number 5. I completely disagree with the prompt. I disagree that he must have had this experience. I disagree that he experienced real love, and I disagree that he experienced real grief. So I'm completely rejecting it. But either way, I know what each paragraph is going to be about, so that I can actually write out my 3 topic sentences just based on whether it's a AAA, ADA, DAD or triple D response. And once I have written out my first 3 my topic sentences, then it's a simple matter of assembling the essay. And that's actually not all that hard to do. So anyhow, I hope that's useful to you. I strongly recommend this approach. Some people say, oh, but I don't quite fit into completely agree. That's fine, then you mostly agree. Some people, oh, I don't want to make a statement one way or the other. What if my teacher or the examiner disagrees with me? That is not what we're looking for. We're looking for you to construct something that is a coherent, cohesive argument, and you need to go one way or the other. Don't just sit on the fence, because you'll end up saying nothing. So I hope that was useful to you. Good luck with your essays.